The theme of this video is all about individuation and differentiation. Two things that can happen, and honestly should happen, early on in childhood, but don't always happen, right? So the fascinating thing here, what I've learned in clinical psychology is that, the very first part of life, 0 to about 2, or even before 0, right? Because obviously internal growth and everything, when the fetus is taking place and everything, this, that, and the other, we're gonna get really fucking deep here. So what's fascinating is that individuation and differentiation they can take place. They don't always take place, and it's encouraged that it does, because the flip side of that is just a continuation of the enmeshed dynamic between mother and child, right? Really, that's how things start, is enmeshment, which is why when you see dynamics in family continue to carry out as enmeshed, it's because they never got away from the enmeshment dynamic. They never, the healthy individuation and differentiation never took place. So the fascinating thing is that it starts off as enmeshment. You're literally fucking biologically connected to your mother, right? First inside of the womb, and then outside, still physically connected until it's cut, right? Then that's out of the way. But then boundaries, after a certain amount of time, are taught. Hopefully, not always. And quite honestly, with what I've seen, it literally seems fucking scarce out there. Boundaries. Might not be the case, but it does seem that way. So first is enmeshment, and then hopefully what is taught is boundaries, and through that, healthy individuation and differentiation. Now let's talk about the cases when the healthy individuation and differentiation does not fucking happen, because the people that you're being raised by do not have healthy boundaries, right? There is no clear distinction between self and other, right? So in systems where enmeshment tend to take place, right, you're basically expected to be on the same fucking page, mentally, emotionally, behaviorally, as fucking everyone else. That's just the reality of it, right? And so the people that don't get the healthy individuation and differentiation, they tend to remain stuck in a system that is just enmeshed, where there is no difference between self and other, where everyone's shit is everyone's shit. And I know that I just made a video yesterday on the subject of relationships that are enmeshed. But what's so interesting about this is that it's not that I was intending to make this video directly after that one. It's just that this needs to be talked about, because everyone is born in a dynamic of enmeshment. From what I've learned in clinical psychology, everyone is born in a dynamic of enmeshment. You're literally enmeshed with your mother when you're in the fucking womb. That's just the way that it is, right? Biologically, you're enmeshed with your mother. And I've heard people talk about how the experience of that, you can actually not only, obviously it affects you as you grow, but you can actually remember different things about that dynamic, right? We're intelligent beings, we really are. We carry a lot with us, mentally, emotionally, physically, behaviorally, biologically, all that stuff, right? So, what is it that happens when somebody doesn't get that healthy individuation and differentiation? Let's define these real quick. I'm going to define individuation. I believe this is Jungian, Carl Jung. And also, I believe that this also has to do with Freudian. Sigmund Freud. Siggy. So individuation is basically individuating from the family, from the entire unit. You are starting to take on your own thoughts, feelings, and behaviors that are unique to you, that make you distinct as an individual, and that separate yourself away from the rest of the unit, the rest of the whole, the rest of the family. Differentiation has a lot more to do with, from what I understand, has a lot more to do with boundaries, right? Recognizing the difference between differentiation, difference between self and other, right? So again, differentiation and I'll say it the other way around. Individuation and differentiation are not always things that people go through earlier on in life. You know, if you are raised in a system that does not have healthy boundaries, you're not going to, it's very unlikely that you're going to get healthy individuation and differentiation. And these things happen rather early in life, like between 0, like, you know, the enmeshment starts first, and then hopefully within a couple years, you know, the system starts to introduce healthy boundaries, and you're allowed to individuate and be your own self, and you know, dabble in whatever the fuck you want to do. Differentiation takes place, self and other. You recognize you recognize your fucking self, and you recognize other, right? Let's talk about not having that happen early on in life, living your life a majority in dynamics of enmeshment with other people, because what you first learned, obviously, which is what everyone learns, is that dynamic of enmeshment biologically from the mother in the womb, but you're just not taught healthy boundaries, right? You're not taught the individuation and the differentiation. So basically, all of your relationships are going to be mirrored by what it is that you learned earlier on in life. So you didn't get the healthy individuation and differentiation. You didn't get the healthy boundaries. So your relationships are going to be fucking enmeshed. That's just the way that it is. Now let's talk about what it's like individuating and differentiating in adulthood. You know, it's fucking wild, because just like how it's easier to learn a language when you're really young, it's easier to individuate and differentiate when it makes fucking sense in childhood, in toddlerhood, you know? Not entirely sure that the years of toddlerhood is when the differentiation and the individuation actually starts to take place. It might be. It's really early. A lot of the developmental things in life that really fucking matter to us as individuals, as humans, they happen very early on in life. They actually do. Like, it's fascinating to me how the dynamic of enmeshment is the first thing that takes place, but then moving away from that and into healthy individuation and differentiation is what is necessary and key for healthy development. That stuff happens so early on in life, right? If you didn't get it, you can still do it, right? You can still do it in adulthood and everything, but it's a lot more challenging, just as it is challenging to learn a fucking language. And I would argue that it's challenging because you already have so much fucking conditioning that has taken place, conditioning of beliefs of, you know, let's say obligation, let's say shame, let's say guilt. There are so many different mental, emotional, psychological, behavioral forces that are trying to fucking pull you away from your capacity to have healthy individuation and differentiation in adulthood. And it's challenging. It really is. You know, because, like, early on, you didn't have any distractions. You didn't have any hardwired beliefs about yourself. You were just like, all right. I mean, you didn't even really know that it was happening. At least I don't think you did. But you were like, all right, enmeshment. Moving away from enmeshment. Healthy boundaries, individuation, differentiation. And then as you grow more and more conscious, you start to see yourself as an individual. You start to see yourself as an autonomous person who is capable of thinking, feeling, and behaving for themselves. You see the difference, right? Differentiation. You see the difference between self and other. So you are far less likely to take on responsibilities that are not yours, because, again, you see the difference between self and other. My responsibility, your responsibility. My responsibility, that person's responsibility. That person's responsibility. And it's fascinating because if you didn't get healthy individuation and differentiation, and you didn't learn healthy boundaries earlier on in life, the likelihood that you're going to take on other people's shit is high. It is very, very high. And that's just the way that it is. I'm probably going to end up making a part 2 to this. There's a lot to talk about here, and it's just an exciting and fun topic to talk about. Just to, you know, finish up real quick, individuating and differentiating in adulthood is a very interesting challenge, because you're battling so many things, all of the hardwiring of all the beliefs that you learned from such an early age, you know. This is why it's like, you know, if you can just do a really good job as a parent, don't shame your child, don't guilt them, don't make them feel fucking obligated. They did not ask to be squeezed out of you. You know, just like let them be their own fucking person. It doesn't matter what that looks like. As long as it's healthy and as long as it's what they want. You know, that's really what matters here. Not trying to, you know, like hold fucking trophies and stuff over them and try to guilt them into believing that you did so much for them. No. They did not ask to be here. They didn't. I'm sure that if they're healthy enough, they're probably grateful to be here, but they didn't ask to be here, and that's the reality of it. And so, you know, just again, diving into the dynamics, or just diving into the reality of, you know, the challenges of doing this work to heal and, you know, individuate and differentiate in adulthood. There's an entire force of mental, emotional, and behavioral shit that is really just challenging to work with when it comes to doing the work in adulthood. It's just an entire mountain, an entire fucking avalanche of unlearning, and it's very challenging. Probably be a part 2 of this coming. We'll see.